Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Georgina Mann, and I'm presenting on behalf of the Brightwater Research Centre examining sex differences in service utilisation and clinical outcomes for people with acquired brain injury undergoing post-acute neurorehabilitation and disability support from 1991 to 2020 in Perth, Western Australia. Research has widely accepted that women have significant difficulties following catastrophic injury and often fare worse than their male counterparts across a number of domains. Particularly, women are at greater risk of poor health outcomes, of poor psychosocial outcomes, they have poorer economic quality of life, and are more likely to have unmet health needs relative to men. This remains the case in samples with acquired brain injury. This research examines a large cohort of individuals undergoing post-acute care for acquired brain injury in order to examine sex differences in service use, functioning, and long-term outcomes. In this instance, I'm defining post-acute care as the care accessed once medical or physiological stability has been reached following acute hospitalisation. This is a period in which individuals have specific needs and individualised goals, often centred around maximising independence. Brightwater provides post-acute care across 5 different programs with differing aims, from on-site neurorehabilitation to in-home care. Individuals access these programs across a variety of stages following their injury. For this research, we examined sex differences in the current sample, which is a retrospective whole population, the ABI Restart cohort. This is a cohort of 1,011 individuals with acquired brain injury who accessed services between the 15th of March 1991, when Brightwater services first began, and the censor date on the 31st of December 2020. In order to be included in the cohort, individuals needed a primary diagnosis of traumatic brain injury, stroke, other non-traumatic brain dysfunction, or non-congenital neurologic conditions as coded by the Australian Rehabilitation's Outcome Centre. Our internal electronic clinical data was used to examine an individual's demographics, to measure their functional independence using the Functional Independence and Assessment measure, their psychosocial function using the Mayo Portland Adaptability Inventory, their quality of life using the Quality of Life After Brain Injury Inventory, and their patterns of service use during admission. Additionally, linked hospital data was probabilistically linked through the WA Department of Health data linkage system. This allowed us to access hospital morbidity data, emergency department data, and the mortality register. Of the 1,011 individuals in the cohort, 33% of those were female and 68% of those were male, which is roughly consistent with statewide brain injury statistics. Across a number of key comparisons, women fared worse than men, both short and long term. On admission, women were older when they were admitted to services and presented with both poorer functional independence and poorer quality of life when controlling for a number of other clinical and demographic factors. Female clients were 1.4 times more likely to require multiple episodes of care across their lives than men, and they had a 40% greater risk of death in the 10 years following their discharge from post-acute services. In addition to this, female clients represented 62% of post-discharge accidental deaths and completed suicides, despite representing only 33% of the total cohort. This indicates that they're particularly vulnerable during the post-discharge period. As acquired brain injury predominantly affects men, services may overlook the specific needs of women. Services need review to attempt to aid in early intervention and to mitigate any barriers to service access. Specifically, services need to admit women earlier into rehabilitation, be tailored to women's specific needs, and offer social support to manage barriers like childcare that may interfere with service access. Services need to prioritise mental health and post-discharge support for women to ensure they're adequately supported during the vulnerable period following discharge from more structured support services. Thank you all for listening today. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding our findings.